18 months after the crash, Tom got back on a bike for the first time. He'd done everything the textbook said. 2 weeks of darkroom rest, then nothing, then more nothing. 8 months of post-concussion symptoms nobody could explain. Anxiety attacks in the supermarket. A career he couldn't sit through anymore. He'd been a Gold Coast age group triathlete who had qualified for the World Championship. Now he was 32 years old, terrified of his own body, and the man he used to be was gone. Tom didn't get that man back. He got a different one. Stronger, slower, more attuned, more whole, and the path that took him there. A quiet collision of vestibular rehab, breath training, heart rate variability data, and a Tai Chi class at the local community center is one of the most important transformation stories I've ever sat with, because it tells us something the recovery industry rarely admits. The goal of recovery is not to go back, the goal is to become new. Welcome to the Wellness Bridge. I'm Gary Chen, physiotherapist and founder of GC Integrative Physiotherapy and Wellness on the Gold Coast. Today my guest is Tom, Gold Coast-based 32, former triathlete, and a man whose post-concussion recovery rewrote what he thought recovery even was. We're talking about the Western neuroscience of brain injury rehab, the Eastern practices that quietly hold the same code, and the comeback that most athletes and most patients get completely wrong. Tom, welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for trusting us with this story.
Gary, thanks for having me. I've been listening since episode 1, so to actually be sitting here is a bit surreal.
Take us back, the crash itself. What happened?
2 years ago, training ride out near Mount Tambourine, wet road, fast descent, a car crossed in front. I went over the bars, helmet split, broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs, and what they called a moderate concussion, though there is nothing moderate about it from the inside. The first 2 weeks, I was told to lie in the dark and rest. I did exactly that, and I got worse, not better. My head was pounding. I couldn't read a screen. I couldn't be in a room with kids. I couldn't be in my own house, basically.
And the old advice was rest, rest, rest. But that's not what the science actually says anymore.
No. And I learned that the hard way. By month 3, I was anxious all the time. By month 6, I was on antidepressants. By month 8, I'd started crying in the car on my way to a GP appointment because I genuinely thought my brain was broken forever. My identity had been Tom the athlete for 15 years. And every part of that, the discipline, the body, the friends, the future, was just gone.
Tom, that's so important to name, because what you're describing is not the soft side effect of injury. It's the central injury. The body fractures, the identity fractures, the nervous system fractures. And nobody had a single map for all 3.
Until I found one.
So let's go to the science. Because what Tom found was not alternative or fringe. It is now the international consensus on concussion care. And most clinicians even, haven't caught up. In October 2022, a group of the world's leading concussion researchers met in Amsterdam. The result was the 6th International Consensus Statement on Concussion in Sport, published in the British Journal Sports Medicine 2023, lead author Patricios, and the central message was a 180 from what most of us were taught. Total rest beyond 48 hours is no longer recommended. Symptom-limited light aerobic activity should begin within 24 to 48 hours of injury. The new model is graded re-engagement, not retreat. And the evidence behind that came partly from a beautiful randomized trial by Leddy and colleagues, published in JAMA Pediatrics in 2019, they took 103 concussed adolescents and randomized them either to subthreshold aerobic exercise or to a stretching control. The aerobic exercise group recovered in a median of 13 days. The stretching group took 17. Movement gradually applied beat sitting still.
That's the opposite of what I was told.
It's the opposite of what most people are still being told. The next piece is even more direct. Schneider and colleagues, British Journal of Sports Medicine, 2014, a randomized controlled trial of cervical vestibular rehab. The intervention group had 8 weeks of physiotherapy targeting the neck and the inner ear. At week 8, 73% of the rehab group had been medically cleared to return to sport. In the control group, 7%, 11 times more clearance from treating the neck and the vestibular system. That's not a fringe finding. That's PNAS level effect size territory in our world.
And that was the turning point for me. A vestibular physio finally tested my eyes and my neck, not just my brain, and she said, "Mate, half of what you're calling a brain injury is your inner ear and your upper cervical spine, and we can fix this in 12 weeks.
Now here's the third piece, and this is the bit that most people miss. Bishop and colleagues, Sports Medicine, 2017. They reviewed the literature on heart rate variability, or HRV, after concussion. HRV is a measure of how flexible your autonomic nervous system is. High HRV equals well-regulated. Low HRV equals stuck in fight or flight. They found that concussed athletes show reduced HRV for up to 30 days post-injury, even when they say they feel fine. The brain says recovered. The autonomic nervous system says not yet. HRV is now a core monitoring tool in elite sport because it sees the recovery the symptom check misses. Now here is where the East and the West sit down at the same table. Because everything we just covered, graded loading, vestibular training, autonomic regulation through breath, has been the practice of Tai Chi and Qigong for 2,000 years. We just didn't have the journals to write it down. Sang and Hui Chan published a randomized controlled trial in 2004 in the Archives of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. 8 weeks of Tai Chi training in older adults produced significant gains in single leg balance and joint proprioception at the knee and the ankle. Slow movement plus breath plus attention. That's vestibular rehab. We call it Tai Chi. In the breath piece, Wabe and colleagues did a systematic review of slow-paced breathing and HRV. The headline number, 6 breaths per minute, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, produces the largest acute parasympathetic gain we have on record. Not meditation generally, not yoga generally, specifically slow-paced resonance frequency breathing.
When I started Tai Chi at the community center, I went because my partner pushed me. I had no idea I was doing what the research was prescribing. I just knew that for the first time in 8 months, my heart rate would settle inside that hour. My HRV the next morning was always better.
What you're describing is the East and the West meeting on your nervous system. Eastern traditions train the human body to slow down, to breathe deeper, to feel where the ground is. Western neuroscience explains why that retrains the threat circuits, the vestibular system, and the autonomic balance. They are not competing stories, they are the same code, written twice. So if you're listening to this and you or someone you love is in some version of recovery, concussion, surgery, burnout, long COVID, chronic pain, post-trauma, here are 5 takeaways the modern evidence wants you to walk out of this episode with. 1. Don't sit in the dark. After 48 hours, gentle symptom-limited movement is the modern standard, even after a concussion. Walking, easy stationary cycling, light fresh air. Listen to your body but do not retreat from it. 2. Treat the neck and the inner ear, not just the brain. Cervical vestibular physiotherapy is the highest yield intervention we have for persistent post-concussion symptoms. If you've been told it is all in your head, get a second opinion from a vestibular physio. 3. Track your HRV. A simple wearable, Apple Watch, Garmin, Whoop, will give you a daily readout. A slowly rising trend over weeks tells you the recovery is real. A flat line tells you to slow down even if you feel fine.
HRV was the single biggest decision tool for me. It told me when to push and when to pull back every single morning.
4. 6 breaths a minute, 2 minutes a day. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. The most boring intervention in this list, and statistically the strongest acute parasympathetic lever in the literature. 3. Anywhere. Now. 5. Add a slow movement practice. Tai Chi, Qigong, gentle restorative yoga. 8 weeks delivers measurable balance, proprioception, and autonomic gains in the trials. And almost more importantly, it gives you a regular ritualized way to feel safe in your own body again, which after a serious injury is the deeper recovery. Tom, when you look back, what changed in you that you wouldn't trade?
I think I'm a more honest person now. I used to drive everything from will. Now I drive it from data and from breath. I am slower, I am stronger, I sleep better, I parent better. I would not have chosen this, Gary, but I would not give the man I am now back.
Tom, that is the comeback code. Recovery isn't going back. It is becoming new. The science of brain injury rehab and the practice of Eastern slow movement and breath are telling the same story, that the human body and the human nervous system are designed to integrate the things that broke them and become more whole on the other side. Not less, more. If this episode helped, share it with one person who is mid-recovery from anything. Subscribe wherever you listen. And come back next week. We'll keep crossing the bridge. Remember, together, we find balance in one.